We're live.
We're live.
What's going on, guys? Welcome. Hope everyone's having a great day. Kelly was nice enough, super kind, to pop on this live because in real time, we are navigating her third week, second week, third week of her doing pretty much everything perfectly. And when I say perfectly, I mean 96, 98% of the time, and not dropping weight. And if there's anything that you're probably familiar with, if you're watching this, being able to, in the pursuit of losing weight and sustaining it, it is the inevitable that happens when you do everything perfect and you hop on the scale and you're like, what the fuck? Why didn't it change? I did everything right. And it's being able to navigate that emotionally so that you don't fall off. Because again, if you've heard me for any length of time, you already know that the point of this whole game is not to get to the goal. It's to sustain the goal. It's not to play a finite game, it's to play an infinite one. And the way we do that is by managing our emotional state. It's by really focusing on the psychology of weight loss. So that's what we're doing. So Kelly was speaking so well before we hopped on here for your benefit uh, about what she was dealing with. So Kelly, do you mind just like catching us up on the last week, the last 2 weeks, and just like so everyone has context where you're coming from?
A quick update. I was doing all of my workouts and then I injured my shoulder, so I couldn't do some of the weight workouts. I was still walking, doing body combat, started back with some lighter weights last week. And the scale just hasn't budged. It's just staying. I haven't gone up, but it's not dropping. And I stayed the course. I'm doing what I should be doing. And then I had a situation where my best friend called to say she's coming to visit and she's a size 2 and she just wanted me to know that. And I'm working my ass off trying to make progress. And I just happen to be in this part of a plateau. And she's doing it through a weight loss drug, Mounjaro. And she's at a very unhealthy weight personally for herself. And in my mind, I know how bad this is, but there's the aggravated part of me that just screamed, and I'm like, ah! I said, well, I'm not a size 2, and I've been weightlifting and eating healthy, and that's that. And I just didn't give up, though. Wanted to give up big time, but I'm still staying the course. But it's frustrating.
Yes, totally. So let's back up even further or zoom out. So you had said that you made some variations or some we'll say yeah, I'll call them variations. A lot of other people might call them like I cheated or like I fell off the wagon. We're just going to call them variations, right? Because words have power and those other words have a not negative connotation and a variation is a neutral connotation. So what were the variations that happened the last week or two that you were telling me about before?
Like my friend coming over when we're supposed to have a healthy salad and bringing me a birthday cake and eating it.
Sure. Yep.
Okay, that was a little one.
Right.
I only had one piece, and I wasn't gonna have anything like that, but I did. And
Yep.
really, I added some fruit into my diet, some watermelon. I ate some different. I have to be gluten free because I have celiac disease, so I eat different types of rolls, and I usually will have a roll or sandwich or something to that consistency on the weekend. There was nothing major.
Right.
And there's a few days where I might have missed my protein shake in the middle of the day. I added that back in. I always feel better with it. So there wasn't a lot of big dietary variations.
Right. And I know that you had mentioned before too, you know, or actually me, you can tell me when we were talking about the birthday cake before, did that feel like a more of an interruption than it feels now? Meaning like, did it feel like, oh, what the heck? Like, is that the thing that threw me off? Like, was there kind of that a negative feeling around that variation?
Yeah.
Right.
In the sense that I think it was all together. Like normally if
Yes.
I just had a piece of cake on this journey, this that wouldn't phase me. But it was the
But
whole
because the scale
scenario.
didn't move. Yeah. Yeah. Right. I get that. And I think that's extremely common. That's again just us human beings doing what we do, which is, we tend to feel an emotion and we look for a correlation. So when the scale doesn't move, our mind races and goes back to all of the times that we had variations or cheated or messed up. But when we look at the rationale of it, and we look at the math, it's actually pretty straightforward that, yeah, that's actually maybe only 2 to 4%, maybe really 2% over the last 2 weeks of eating for you.
Mhm.
Because, the math would just simply be, let's say that there's, you know, 3 meals a day and let's just say there's no snacks for simplicity. Or let's say there's a few snacks. So that's 21 meals a week in total with snacks. Let's just say it's like 25. This is just for simple math. So that's 50 eating opportunities over 2 weeks. One of them had cake. And we were talking about it, and it's like, all right, what percentage is that? That's 2%. If you were on track 98% of the time, just the science, not the emotion, science, would you lose weight? Of course.
Mhm.
98%, no doubt. You would, that 2%, you'd have to like be a competitive eater and eat like Joey Chestnut 52 hot dogs in one sitting, like, like to be off that much. But the fact is, the 2% is really not going to play that big of a role, especially if we take it and we divide those extra calories. Like, even assuming that you did eat all your other calories and you ate that on top, that's 300 calories in that piece of cake, maybe 500. I think we were saying if it was like super rich. So let's say in the middle, 400. Again, super rich piece. We divide that over 2 weeks and you're looking at, or 14 days, and you're looking at roughly like 30 extra calories a day. So it's like, is 30 extra calories a day going to get you to gain weight or stay the same and stop your weight loss? No, not at all. But we feel that the correlation could be it. But if there's anything to take away from this video, it's that correlation doesn't equal causation. And what we need to do a lot of the times when we're having an emotional response is we need to do our best to get rational again. And I think that's one of the benefits of having a coach is they can, not just say, of course there's an art to it, right? You don't just want to be like, well, you have an emotional episode. Like, no, don't say, no, that's not it. It's, hey, we can appreciate where you're coming from, but, here's like, let's look at it this way, or here's something else to consider. And it's crazy because when you do, you start to feel better. And I mean, Kelly, of course we're not done yet, but just from the beginning of the call to now, before we hopped on here, are you feeling better from
I'm
right?
much better, and it's kind of humorous to
Sure.
have taken all my stress and put it into a piece of cake. I mean,
Right.
like, to have a different perspective now on that wasn't really logical, and it was all emotional. It was just like it really had to do with, well, I'm a size 2 and I'm taking drugs to do it. Kind of that's all the I was pissed. And I'm
Yes.
like, all right, so I don't even ever want to be a size 2 at this stage, but to reach my goal weight is going to take a lot more than 5 minutes and a needle.
Yes.
So,
And I want to talk about that too. I want to dive into that, but I am curious to know what your motivation was on a scale of 1 to 10 before hopping on the call when you were getting on, which I know was on the lower side. What would you consider it?
when I started, like about a 3.
3. And then I know we're not completely done. We haven't sealed it yet. We haven't really gone over new actions and accountability yet. But just after talking for a little bit, where's your motivation fall going into this
That's up to
next
like an
week?
8.
Crazy, right? And we talked for how long? 8 minutes?
Yeah.
So it's like this is why it doesn't have to be us. Like, I want to be really clear on that. It doesn't have to be us as somebody's coach, but just why you need somebody. And potentially somebody, yes, it does help when they have the context after working with people for a while to be able to get that done faster. But I want to talk a little bit more about something you said on the phone with me before hopping on that I just like, if I could like snapshot that moment in time and like put it on the wall of like awesomeness, I would, because I felt like your level of awareness to the situation was so profound because, and I'm going to butcher this, I want you to say it, but if I'm remembering correctly, you had said, after we kind of made that shift in realization and the motivation went back up, you had said, oh, you know what? And you know what? I probably also felt this way because I was projecting my stress from work onto like this thing, right? So here you
100%.
are Yeah, so here you are having if you're more stressed, you have a lower emotional resilience.
Hmm.
So these feelings hit you harder, and you had the awareness to like be like, oh, huh. And that the coolest thing about that is now going forward in the future, am I saying that like we'll never need to have this conversation again? No. Like we may at some point, but here's the beauty. And this is how real change happens. When you have that awareness, the next time it does happen, there's a higher likelihood that as it's all going down, pattern recognition will kick in and you'll go, oh, wait a second. I'm just stressed. Like, no, like correlation doesn't equal causation. This isn't probably what that is. I know this. I've played this game. I know this already.
Uh-huh.
And I'm learning the lesson. So maybe let's do this for the next hour. Let me just focus on like de-stressing. Okay, what are the things I like to do? And you start to de-stress, and then it's not an issue anymore, and your motivation goes back up and you're ready to rock.
Hmm.
So it's like that's powerful. I don't know if I said that weird, wrong. Can you what's the word? Can you correct me? Is that
No, that's
was
exactly
it?
basically
Is
what it
that it?
was.
Okay.
Because as I talk through it, and if I wasn't talking to you, I probably wouldn't have put it all together. But it was the work stress. It was the stress of hearing that somebody didn't put a lot of effort into what they're doing and achieved
Still want to hit that. Yeah.
instantaneous results. And I have the logic to know that those results don't even stay. But
Right.
it was just the stress. And then I planned this healthy meal, and my friend brings cake. And instead of it being happy for me, I was like, I don't want the cake. And when I talk through it, I'm like, that's not really logical, and it is just a piece of cake, and that's not why my weight's not dropping. It's because all this stress came out of nowhere this week, and it all hit at the same time, and then here I am, and yes, I'm still making progress, and yes, I'm still exercising, and yes, I feel better. But if I
Yeah.
didn't talk through it, I might just go eat more cake.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like this is just such a nod in the direction that really sustainable weight loss is 80% psychology, right? Because like that's the key is like staying on course. And I mean, just for context, I still want to talk about your friend that's doing the other thing. But just like for context, it's like this is Kelly's weight loss since the beginning. And if you zoom out, it's like if we were to draw a line from top to bottom, it looks like she's had pretty linear loss, which is nice. However, Kelly, has this felt linear to you?
No.
Of course not. It feels like, what the fuck? Right?
Every time there's
Now,
that increase in that little spike, you're like, ah,
right, exactly.
why
And I
isn't it
know,
moving?
yes, yep, 100%. And it's that feeling that leads us to eventually stopping. And of course, when we stop, that's when everything goes away. Now, the thing that you guys aren't seeing if you are watching this is Kelly doesn't have a weigh-in for the last 2 weeks. And the reason she doesn't have a weigh-in because it didn't go down. And right, we sometimes feel weird when we're just logging the same weight because we feel like it's a fork. But if this was logged to this day, you would see that for the last 2 weeks, she's gone straight. But you'll notice that if we go back to somewhere around July, she had the same thing happen. As you can see, she lost, even though she did have some gains in between there, which is normal. And then somewhere in July or late June, the same thing happened then that's happening now, which is her weight just stayed the same. And then she went through a big loss. So guess what's happening right now? The same thing. She's going through another sustained period, and then she's going to have a loss. This is the most important part of your transformation right now. And this is obvious, for you, Kelly, but for anyone listening too. If you were at a point where you are not losing weight and you're staying the same and you're doing everything right, this is the most important time to just like break your fucking scale and just keep going, because what is on the other side of this is another big drop. And as long as you can manage the emotional ups and downs, literally, of your weight, and you just keep plugging away, and you do that either because you're keeping yourself rational or because a coach is helping you stay rational, you will get to your goal. I promise you. When I think back to like Carla, who lost 130 pounds. I think you know that story, Kelly.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. Do you? Okay. Yeah. So like, I mean, like with Carla. So she lost 130 pounds. Oh, let me pull it up here. Oh, 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 there it goes. So Carla lost 130 pounds. And the reason she was able to do that was only because she was able to deal with the emotional ups and downs. Because I promise you, she would have not have done this in 2 years if every time she didn't lose weight for 3 weeks in a row, she went, well, what's the point? And then went right back up to where she was. Either slowing her down by potentially years or making it so she never got there. So I'm, I don't want to stop talking yet, but I'm like so proud of you for this, Kelly, because the fact that you have this level of awareness, and even as right now, like as much as this is for everyone else, as we're saying this out loud, it's going to ingrain it for us too.
Mhm.
So it's like, oh man, like, you won't forget this probably, which will be awesome. And that's how real change takes place. That last thing that we were talking about that I wanted to get to was your friend. So your friend, like, so we had those two things happen, right? The birthday cake, and then we had work stress, right? Which is like not just normal work stress. It's like, oh, there might be like changes in your job pretty soon, and like so like unappreciated. I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but like unappreciated for sure. Maybe not having a position there much longer because of like they don't see the value. So it's like that stress is real stress, life changing stress, potentially fear. And then on top of that, then you had your friend too, who's coming to see you, who is as you said, a size 2, but she's been doing it a quick fix way, which has been, as you were talking about, was it Ozempic or was it something else?
Mounjaro.
Okay. I'm not too familiar with Mounjaro. And we had said, it's kind of like having the devil on the shoulder. And I'm not saying that people who do these things are bad or that they're going to get hurt. I don't know that for sure. I wasn't in the clinical studies, but we all probably know that if there is something that's going to accelerate your fat loss beyond normal physiology, it probably has some side effects. So
yes,
when you're feeling defeated though, and when you're feeling like we want it to go faster, it's kind of like the devil on the shoulder saying, well, imagine if you're doing everything that you're doing plus this. I don't know. And it's like, oh my God, and it's so tempting. It's so tempting. But if there's anything that I could advise anyone who's listening, it's that the quick fix solutions do not work for the long term. Any weight that you're going to lose, anything that you do to lose weight, you want to make sure that you're going to do the same stuff to sustain it. Because if you don't, it's kind of like the person that gets like liposuction and says, I'll be disciplined when I'm like where I want to be, then I'll get disciplined. And it's like, that might work for a month, but then the law of familiarity sets in, and now you're just going to go right back to where you were because you're not motivated anymore. So it's like we really have to get to this point where this is becoming habit and it's something that we can sustain. So I'm really proud of you, Kelly. I feel like you are such the example of what we would aspire every one of our RNs to be and like be on the journey of. Like, not only have you, I think in total we're down what now? Is it not obviously not that weight's that important, but yeah, down almost 12 pounds since the beginning, or a little over 12 pounds since the beginning. But more importantly, as you would say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how sustainable does it feel?
10.
10, right. And that's the point, is that as long as it feels sustainable and we can navigate just the ups and downs of the weight emotionally, you win. So I'm excited. I'm excited for you. The best is yet to come, Kelly.
I'm hanging in there.
You're doing it. Is there anything else you'd want to add to this, or any advice that you might have for someone out there who maybe is listening and thinking like, you know, you know, I don't know, is this actually sustainable, or should I pursue something that's sustainable, or should I just go with another quick fix? What's kind of your advice to someone out there who's been struggling for years and really just is feeling like they're giving up hope?
I'd say the key is that this is sustainable and it has to be sustainable to work. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to have like these days like I had. But when you have them, reach out and say, okay, now I need support. Like, because, you know, I don't want to eat the whole cake. And that's not going to make me feel better clearly at all. And you just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other and not giving up. The quick fixes I already know because of the job I do, there's a lot of danger in that. And it scares me to see what people are going through and those side effects. And I don't want that. And my whole getting frustrated was like, all right, I know that I have to keep going this way and it's working and it's sustainable, but you have to manage the stress and ignore where I mean, it's just the universe throwing you a curveball. And it's like, all
Yeah.
right, well, I'm going to throw that back and I'm going to reach out for support and I'm going to keep doing this and enjoy my healthy food. And that's going to make a difference overall for a long time. Not just in, I guess you also can't look at this either. Just, this isn't just weight loss, it's about being healthy.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I think that if we're shooting for a number on the scale and we're shooting for that as the end all be all, our days will be numbered. And we might be able to sustain it for some time, but if the goal is not to maintain, if the goal is not to sustain, then we're kind of screwed. The goal is to stay healthy. The goal is to stay. So as hard as it is to say, all right, I am going to start with the end in mind, and the end is never going to come. There is no there is no top of the mountain. The mountain just keeps going higher. You are going to be on this stairmaster forever. So, how can you enjoy being on this climb the most? And how can you minimize the pain, maximize the pleasure so that you feel pulled towards it and at the same time can endure it through any emotional storm and any stressors that come your way. So, if you're listening, whether you're listening on the day this is recorded or you're listening months or years in the future, I want you to really know from my soul, I believe that the best is yet to come and you can get there. So, thank you, Kelly, for being here. I really appreciate it. You rock.
Everybody got this. Good luck.
Woo! Awesome. And we will see you guys soon.